They say fresh starts are just new chapters in the same old book. I used to believe in change, real, clean slate kind of change. But that was before we moved into that house. After the divorce and losing my job in the same month, I packed what little pride I had left into a U-Haul and drove Jake and myself upstate. The town was small, the kind where gas stations still had handwritten signs, and the diner waitress knew your coffee order by day 2. It was the kind of quiet I thought we needed. The house was a 2-story colonial, pale yellow with green shutters and a sagging front porch. Built in 1912, according to the listing. I got it for a steal, too cheap really, but I convinced myself it was just a motivated seller. I needed to believe that. The place had character. I'll give it that. But it was tired. The plumbing groaned when I ran the taps. Floorboards squealed even when no one was walking. And the basement had this smell. Damp and earthy, like something had been buried and forgotten. The day we moved in, an elderly woman from next door brought over a peach cobbler and a strange look in her eyes. "This house has a hard history," she said softly. "You be careful." Then, she turned and shuffled away before I could ask what she meant. I laughed it off. I had bigger things to worry about. I didn't realize then, no one really moves into that kind of house, not truly. Sometimes, the house moves into you. It started small, the kind of things you chalk up to an old house settling. Lights would flicker, not just during storms, but on clear sunny days. I had 2 electricians come out. Both said the wiring was old, but safe. One of them even laughed and said, "Probably just the house getting to know you." I didn't laugh back. Jake adjusted quickly, or so I thought. Too quickly, maybe. He spent a lot of time in his room, murmuring to someone I couldn't see. At first, I thought it was imaginary friends. Kids cope in all sorts of ways. But one day, I asked who he was talking to. "The boy," he said, as if I should already. "No, there's no boy here, sweetheart." Jake didn't even look up from his Legos. "He lives in the closet." I tried to ignore the cold ripple that ran down my spine. A few nights later, I woke to the sound of footsteps overhead. Heavy, deliberate. But Jake was curled next to me in bed, his small body warm and breathing slow. I grabbed a flashlight and crept into the hallway. That's when I saw them. Muddy footprints, small, child-sized, leading from Jake's room to the basement door. We hadn't been outside in days. After the footprints, I couldn't sleep. Not really. I'd doze off for an hour, maybe 2, then wake up choking on that heavy, damp smell that always seemed stronger at night. It clung to the walls like mold you couldn't see. I started digging into the house's past, into anything that could explain what we were experiencing. The county clerk's office had dusty records going back a century. Our home, it turned out, had belonged to a man named Thomas Weller. He'd bought the place after returning from Vietnam. A decorated soldier, widowed young. He raised his daughter. Here, Claire. She died when she was 10, fell down the stairs, snapped her neck. It made the local papers. No signs of abuse or foul play, just a tragic domestic accident, they said. After that, Weller stopped working, stopped answering the door. Neighbors said he let the place rot around him. Then one day, he was just gone. No forwarding address, no death certificate, just gone. It was almost a relief to find something concrete until I found the journals. I discovered them in a crawl space behind the upstairs linen closet, hidden beneath a loose board. Weathered leather books, filled with Weller's cramped handwriting. The early entries were mundane, shopping lists, weather, notes. But then they shifted. The girl is still here. She stands at the top of the stairs, same as that night. She won't forgive me. The last entry chilled me to the bone. She watches me when I sleep. I try to tell her I'm sorry, but she only screams. I put the journal down and looked toward Jake's room. The air felt colder than it should have. It got worse. Not all at once. More like the slow tightening of a noose. Jake started sleepwalking. I'd wake in the middle of the night and find his bed empty, only to discover him standing barefoot in the hall closet, eyes wide open but not seeing anything. One morning, I found him crouched in the attic, shivering under the sloped beams, whispering. He said I had to come up here. I asked who he was. Jake just looked past me and said, "The man in the walls." He wasn't being dramatic. Either. I started hearing it too, soft knocking. Not outside, not from the pipes, from inside the walls. It came late, always between 2 and 3 a.m. At first I told myself it was raccoons or squirrels. But when I knocked back once, the sound stopped, and then came again, louder, like something didn't appreciate the conversation. Then, there were the drawings. I found them crumpled at the bottom of Jake's backpack. Dozens of them. Crayon. Sketches of our living room, his bedroom, the staircase. Always the same. Each room, each space, with a black figure in the corner. A man-shaped smudge with no face, just an empty oval where features should be. Sometimes Jake drew red marks on the necks of the stick figure people around him. He never explained those. I started to worry I was losing it, that maybe there was something in the house, something physical. I called an inspector, had tests run for mold, for carbon monoxide leaks, for radon, anything that might explain the hallucinations, the sleepwalking, the fear twisting tighter in my chest each day. Everything came back clean. There was no scientific reason for what we were experiencing, which left me with one conclusion I didn't want to face. Something else was in that house with us. The night it all snapped was during a thunderstorm, one of those brutal late autumn tempests that shakes the whole sky. The power flickered out just after midnight, and I lit candles while Jake slept beside me. Or so I thought. Then I heard, it faint at first, almost drowned out by the rain lashing the windows. A small, choked sob. It was Jake's voice, but it wasn't coming from the bedroom. It was coming from inside the walls. "Mom." A whimper. "Mom, help me." I screamed his name and tore through the house, every door flung open, every closet checked. I banged on the drywall, pressed my ear to cold plaster, yelling for him. The sobs echoed, moving, shifting downwards. That's when I realized the sound was leading me to the basement. I didn't want to go down there. Every instinct screamed at me to stay away. But I did. He was there, sitting cross-legged on the concrete floor, soaked through, completely still. The flashlight trembled in my hand as I approached. His eyes were locked on the far wall, wide, glassy. I knelt and shook him. "Jake! Jake, look at me." It took a second before his head turned. His lips barely moved. "He says you're not listening." That broke me. My chest clamped shut. My skin tingled like it was trying to crawl off my bones. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I collapsed right there on the stairs, sobbing into my palms while thunder rattled the foundation. When I could finally get my hands to work, I called my sister. I didn't try to explain. I just told her we needed out. Now. By sunrise, she was there. We left everything behind. We moved in with my sister in Albany just for a while. Her spare room was cramped, and Jake had to share a bed with me again. But I didn't care. I just needed to hear him breathing at night. Therapy became routine, twice a week for Jake, 3 times for me. The doctors said what we experienced could be the result of high stress, trauma from the divorce, sleep deprivation, isolation too. That house, tucked away on that dead-end street, had become a pressure cooker for everything we hadn't dealt with. I started admitting things I hadn't wanted to say out loud, like how I couldn't remember pieces of the nights there. Entire hours gone, like waking dreams I wasn't sure I'd had. My therapist said that was common in trauma cases. Investigators checked the house. They found nothing, No bodies, no toxic mold, no secret rooms. Just bad plumbing, aging wood, and a basement with a persistent damp smell. The house was cleaned up and resold within 2 months. A few weeks ago, I saw the new listing online. I clicked through the glossy photos, polished floors, new paint, staged furniture. Then I saw it, in the attic photo. Faint, almost missed. A child's drawing on the wall in crayon, a faceless man standing in the corner. I didn't scream, didn't even flinch. I just closed the laptop and walked away.